Here we go. Okay, hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. The subject today is narcissists, scapegoating, and gaslighting. It's a series that will run weekly through November 17th, and it's going to be pre-recorded. So the videos will be posted here on my YouTube channel and also on Lisa Small Naturals Facebook page. So you can go to either one and watch any of my videos. If you'd like to join our group called Narcissists, Scapegoating, and Gaslighting, which is on my Facebook page, the Lisa Small Naturals page, you just have to answer some questions and it'll automatically allow you to join. And we keep everything pretty much, that's not shared publicly, so it's a private group so that, people can feel safe to say, whatever they need to say. So I chose the subject narcissist, scapegoating, and gaslighting because of my own personal experience, but I decided to talk about it openly because as I was learning about this, I heard from these psychiatrists, psychologists that I was listening to, and they said that this is pretty common, and there's a lot of people that go through this, and I didn't realize it. Not that I thought I was the only one, but here, move closer. But I thought that, I didn't realize it was that common. So it happens in the workplace, it happens at home, it happens in marriages, it happens with friends, it happens with in churches. So in any group, it can happen. So, and Cassetta has experienced her own things.
Right.
So that's why I like having Cassetta here, because she can add so much to the conversation. And this is an elephant in the room. When you have somebody that's a narcissist in your family or in a group or wherever you are, it's like no one wants to say anything. Not that they understand the narcissist. I never really knew what a narcissist was, and I didn't understand any of this, but I knew what was happening. I knew something wasn't right. And it's always the elephant in the room. And if you say something, then you're looked at like there's something wrong with you. Everybody else is comfortable with that elephant in the room. So like us, maybe you're someone who didn't know that you were involved in a toxic relationship or a toxic family. Maybe you knew something was wrong, but you couldn't put your finger on it. Maybe you tried to discuss it, but you were just shut down. And that's a lot of times what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
That happened to you?
Right.
Yep. Because they don't want you to uncover anything. They just want you to pretend everything's fine, sweep it under the rug, and we'll just forget about it and let time go by and everything will be fine until the next cycle of toxic stuff happens.
Behavior.
Yes. So I'm Lisa, and this is Cassetta, and we're not therapists.
Nope.
We're not counselors.
Not at all.
We are just people like you who have been through it.
Mm-hmm. So
if you need support, helpful resources, which I have, and I can share them, and I do on my Lisa Small Facebook page. I've gone through a lot of different resources, and I chose the ones that I thought were the best ones, and pretty much that line up with what I believe as far as my faith goes, and what I believe, God would want us to believe, because there's a lot of junk out there too.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that they say, like, if you're a scapegoat, you're a victim, but we don't want to be a victim. We don't want to have that victim mentality, because that's only going to hurt us.
Yeah.
It's not going to help our cause at all. So we don't want to do that. If you need clarification about something, you're not sure, we can also, try to help you with that or point you in the right direction with that. Because when you're on the receiving end of a narcissist or a toxic relationship, you're on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always easy to know,
to see
what's really happening. Yeah, because when you're in it, you think it's normal. You're told it's normal. And so that's what we think. We just think it's normal, and we have to bear up, and we have to just take it, and we just have to live with it. So let's just start with a little recap from last week, which was just about, I forget what was the topic last week. Okay.
We just went through
I can't remember what the topic was, but it was narcissists.
It was, and it was
like what is a narcissist like, and how does it affect your life?
Yeah.
That's what it was. So just like a little recap, and then the main topic tonight is going to be people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised to hear and find out there's so much that goes into that, and I really didn't realize it. So recap from last week. You want to start anything? Say anything?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I didn't say last week that I would like to say was the narcissist will have this grandiose, air about them. So they think that they're better than anybody. They think
everybody.
Yeah, they think that, pardon the expression, I learned this from my mother. She said a different word, but I'll say, their poop doesn't stink.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel that they are entitled, and and they're manipulative. I think we said that last week. There's a lot of, and not all narcissists are that way, where they look at it in a mirror and they can't stop looking at themselves. There are narcissists that are like that. And what's happening with social media today is all these selfies and the poses and the lips, that kind of thing, like that is not that's not really what we want to get into. We don't want to do that because what is it really saying about us? Why are we doing that? And I know a lot of people, if you're going to take pictures, or take a video of, do a video, that's one thing. Like, we're taking a video, we're going to be on this camera. So that's just the way it is. But, we're not, doing this and, and, Rich is home. So that's, that's something that we want to watch out for, especially with our children and grandchildren. We just really don't want to promote that kind of life, So anyway, so that's just our little recap from last week, and being a people pleaser. That's tonight's topic.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to mention any of these and see if anything hits you?
Leave us vulnerable.
So if you're a people pleaser,
it leaves you vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's self-explanatory. Because then you
fall for stuff.
You fall for things that you normally wouldn't fall for.
Yeah. It leaves you wide open.
Yes.
People see you coming.
Yes, and then they use you.
Yeah.
So.
I just had an experience just like that, work-wise, yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah. And, but the Lord got me through it, and I talked to Rich about it, and my broker, and even my broker said, don't let it get you, just move on. And I learned, because years ago I would have thought, maybe I did this wrong, or I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that, and I'd be very hard on myself, and I'd be like, it's my fault, I did something. But yesterday, and I learned like a couple weeks ago, I had to be firm, because my contract with this client was they were going outside of that and wanting me to do more and more and more. And I was doing that until I had to say, I can't, it's too time consuming. I have to stick with the contract. And I do believe that because I stuck up for myself and I stood my ground, that they no longer saw me as a target. They no longer saw me as somebody they could manipulate and get away with whatever they wanted, to make me do what they wanted me to do. And I think that's really part of the major part of it, because there are reasons for dissolving the contract with me. I rebutted every point, and they didn't even come back and disagree with me.
Because they knew what they were doing.
Yeah. And they were nice. I mean, they were always kind and nice.
Right.
So you don't have to be angry and nasty and mean to be manipulative and to, target someone and to use them. And maybe they don't even realize that they're doing it. So I'll even give them the benefit of the doubt for that. I was very disappointed. Because I have had a relationship with this client for a long time, and I've worked with him before. So, it didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. So, anyway, so I just dealt with that yesterday. But that was me coming out of the vulnerable, manipulated. I have a sign on my forehead that says you're a target and you're an easy target, and we're going to get you to do whatever we want you to do. And you can't say no. So, because that's just the type of person you are. And that's how I always was. But now that I'm not that way, it was weird, because I started with them 3 months ago. And so we went from me being an easy target to me learning stuff and realizing things and applying what I've been learning to the situation, and then the outcome of what I got. But I'm thankful now that I think about it, and there were red flags.
Right.
I just flew right past the red flags because I wanted what I wanted too.
Right.
Out of it. So, and I take responsibility for that. I saw the dangling carrot, and that's what happened. And so, but I learned from it, and so it wasn't wasted. And God put that in my path for a reason.
Right. Because going forward, you stick to the script.
Yep.
You stick to
absolutely
the plan, because it just sets you up for a win, and it set them up for a win.
Yes. Yes.
And it lets people know, like, no, we have this contract.
Exactly.
You have to abide by it. Just because you know me and we have good how you treat me matters.
Yeah.
And, don't take advantage because you see an opportunity to take advantage.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So yeah, easily manipulated. We leave ourselves open to that.
And make you an easy target for those who are manipulative and a narcissist.
Yep. They can spot
from a mile away.
That from a mile away. It's like they smell it and they know, because they're that type of person.
Right. So they're just looking for a way to get in.
Yes.
And once they see that your weakness or they use your vulnerability against you.
Exactly. So
once they see that, and
yes,
they come straight in. But once you start, I think, like, when you work on things and you have your build up, like, your signs, you have to know red flags, and but once you build yourself up and they come to you, you'll be able to identify them the same way they can identify you. You can identify them.
Yeah.
So you can stop it at the door, like shut it down, like, no, maybe 10 years ago, that was me 10 years ago, but I'm now restored. So
boundaries, learning boundaries.
Yes. And learning self-worth is a part of it too.
Yes.
So just knowing that, no, we don't allow people to do that to us because we love ourselves.
Right.
So, but being a people pleaser, you'll put someone else's need over your own need.
Right.
And even though you know it's wrong, when you're a people pleaser, you tend to do it.
Yep.
Because the idea is, I'll take the wrong to make them happy.
Yeah.
And like, I'll lessen myself, but we're not, you have to build yourself up, like I said, and not be around people that makes you shrink. Like, you have to shrink yourself.
Right.
Right. So they can be, you want to be around people that can enjoy who you are.
Yeah.
Your light don't intimidate them.
Right.
So.
Yeah, like if I saw someone who I could sense was easily manipulated, and they were vulnerable, my reaction would not be to take advantage of them. My reaction would be to protect them. So when we have somebody who their first thought is, how can we take advantage of this person? How can we manipulate them? That's who they are. That's the type of person that they are.
That's their character.
Yes. And so, this must the tea over. So that's the difference. Like, that's what they're used to. That's how they've, when we don't examine ourselves, that's how we become. And I just heard somebody say, and I've been saying this to my mom for years. I said it to my mom for years, that when we don't examine ourselves and we just, let things go, and we like sin, or we act a certain way that's not healthy, it's not good for anybody, and we don't examine ourselves and think, wow, I really shouldn't have said that, let me apologize to them, or that was really wrong.
Right.
Lord, I'm sorry that I did that, and I'm not going to do that anymore. And then you do the work so that you don't continue to do that.
To go down that path.
Right. Because when you don't, there's, do I have my,
What?
yeah, let me get Richard's Bible. There's a verse in James that talks about this. James. I think it might be in the beginning. Maybe it's in 5. Maybe it's not in James. Maybe I thought it was. Okay. I thought it was in James.
What are you looking for?
Here it is. It is. It's in James 1. It says in James 1, starting at verse 12, blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. When tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each one, each one is tempted when by his own evil desire he is dragged away and enticed. Then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. And I have contemplated that for years.
That scripture.
Yes, and I've had different people tell me different things about what it means and who he's talking to. He's talking to believers. And so first of all, God can't tempt himself. So if Jesus is in us, then the cat.
Jesus.
Belle. Okay. I'm not editing this video.
Oh, gosh.
So if Jesus is in us, then Jesus in us is not going to be tempted.
No.
So he's not going to be tempted. And it reminds me of, with our own evil desires, we can only, our evil desires will just get worse and worse and worse if we don't put a lid on it and we don't stop it. So if we continue down that path, then we're just going to get worse and worse and worse. So the little white lie we tell that, we think is no big deal, and then we tell another one, and then it's a bigger lie, and then we have to start keeping track of our lies, and then we keep lying, and now we believe our lies because God gives us over to a depraved mind. And eventually you're just going to believe your lies, and you're not going to be able to get out of that pattern. That's why God tells us not to do that.
Right.
Because that's the nature of sin. It's not really like God is doing that to anybody. He's not doing that. We at our own free will are doing that
to ourselves. And
it's a natural consequence that we are given over to a depraved mind. That's obviously where we want to go. So, God is serious though in sin, when it comes to sin. He doesn't want us to think that sin is okay in any capacity. So it says, then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. And that's not just physical death. I mean, that's not death, that's spiritual death. And then he says, don't be deceived, my dear brothers. And he says, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He chose to give us birth through the word of truth, that we might be a kind of first fruits of all he created. So every good thing is from God. Every evil and bad thing is not from God. It's from Satan. So sin is obviously, it's not from God. And anyway, so we have a choice to make. If you see somebody who is vulnerable, who's easily manipulated, who's a target,
right.
Whether or not you are a people pleaser or have gone through anything, don't manipulate them.
And don't take advantage.
Don't take advantage, right? Don't use them.
Right.
Protect them and help them and guide them so that they're not prey to those other people.
And if you see that they don't know, you can always just try and teach them.
Yeah.
Not just saying, don't go out and say, don't be foolish, don't you see?
Yeah.
Sometimes you may have to just say, hey, this is going on. If you don't, but try your best,
And sometimes they have to go through things too in order to learn. Like I did. So.
Yeah. So it's peace in the storm.
Yep.
And the idea is to give hope that you're going through stuff like this and things are going on. You're not alone, and that you can come out on the other side.
Right.
It's not to condemn or just to make you feel like, man, I can't get out of this. It's not the idea. It is that you can pull yourself up.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And God will be there, and He'll guide.
Absolutely.
He'll guide us when we make that determination. Then He's going to give us everything we need to live that godly life. Yes. That's right from, I think, 1 Peter or 2 Peter.
I think it's 2 Peter.
2 Peter 1 somewhere or something. So being a people pleaser also causes us to allow people to treat us in ways that they would never treat somebody else. Like there's certain people they'll treat like that because they know they can get away with it. But other people, they wouldn't dare.
Right.
So it's not that that's how they are with everybody. It's just with this person.
Right.
Or that they would do that with.
Right. Because and just for an example, you'll have some family member, they will invite you to something that they know that is not fun or pleasing or whatever,
Mhm.
you know, but they wouldn't do that to somebody else,
Right.
to someone else that they value more.
Yes.
So what it is people don't value you
Yeah.
as much as they value someone else.
Right.
And sometimes you have to leave those relationships alone and give the person time to grow,
Mhm.
or you can leave it alone totally and just say, listen, I don't belong at that table. I need to be around people that see me well and mean me well.
Right.
So you can be in a relationship with someone and they treat strangers better than they treat you.
Yeah.
So, you know,
and that could be your own parent.
It can be your parent. It can be
siblings.
It can be aunt and uncle.
Yeah.
Co-workers.
Mhm.
You know, they have respect for some, and they try and disrespect others. That is in the people pleasing category.
Yeah.
You see, they treat one person at the job better than they treat the other. You know, they'll be nicer or to one person than the other. Why is that? You know, it has a lot to do with character, but
Mhm.
they're also people pleasing because sometimes it's fear of the other person, and you know, they do that.
Mhm.
And I see that a lot.
Yeah.
Like even in the workplace, that's like big in the workplace.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so being a people pleaser, we're always careful. We don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
Oh, yeah.
And that can cause us to not speak the truth.
Right.
When we have to, when we need to, because we're too concerned that. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you have an example, but years and years ago, I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s, and my mom had a friend from California who I started getting closer to. She saw me coming. I didn't realize it at the time, but I helped my mom. My mom used to be a companion for seniors. So she asked my mom to help her sisters who lived in Philadelphia. My mom would go and take care of them, like, or the one sister actually, because the other sisters were like fed up with the other sister and they didn't want to have to deal with her. So they all got along, but she would complain, and it was easier to have somebody else tell her what to do than when she listened to my mom and to me when I went. So I got involved in that too. So my mom's friend who lived out in California had said to me one time, oh, you know, my sisters, if anything happens and they can't take care of themselves, you would come and live with them, wouldn't you? Or have them live with you or something like that. And I'm like thinking, I'm married and I have kids. Like, what? And I went, yeah, I guess. Like, I didn't know what to say. It was like, first of all, why would she even say that to me?
Jeez.
Because she knew that she's a manipulator, and she knew that, like, she would never say that to my sister or say that to somebody else.
Right.
Like, she knew that I was that type of person. She could say that too.
And you would give her,
and I would agree with her. So, and then it was the type of thing where if I reneged on it, well, you said, you know, well, I wasn't in my right frame of mind when I said yes, you know.
Right. Or you put me in a position where I
Yeah.
didn't know. It was so uncomfortable and I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And I find it when I'm in that in those scenarios where I just say no.
Yeah.
I just automatically say no.
Yeah.
And sometimes people would just say, well, you didn't even think about it. And I just said, and, you know, I said, you're absolutely right. But I wasn't given the opportunity to.
Right.
If you put me in a position to where I have to dishonor myself, it's a no.
Good.
That's
good.
Yeah, and it's just flat out. Don't put me in a position where I now have to dishonor myself and what I believe and all of that.
Right.
Because people will use once you've been a people pleaser, you realize that it often sometimes it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Because to learn how to differentiate, should I do this or should I not do this?
Right.
Yeah. Especially for believers, I think, because you want to do what's right.
That's even harder.
You want to do what's right,
and you don't want to be mean.
And
you
you
feel
don't
like you're
want to
being
be
mean
mean
if you say
right.
no.
And it's not really that. Sometimes you're going to face a situation where it's not good. It's not bad. It's like good against good. It's like good against best.
Right.
So it's not really that sometimes the scenario is, but I find it that it's still the same tactic.
Yeah.
And the first thing is the fact that you came up with it, knowing that it's not a sacrifice you yourself would make.
Right.
And then you put me in a position, my answer is automatically no.
Yeah.
Because you did that in your mind.
Yeah.
And whether it's coming from with a pleasant attitude, the foundation didn't change.
Right.
It's still manipulating.
Yeah.
It's still putting me in a position to where I have to make a choice that it's not good for me.
Right.
So
that's right.
I just find out when I'm in those situations, I just like, no, that's not for me. Because it's not something that I can entertain.
Yeah.
It doesn't go with the plan of how my life is structured right now.
Right.
It goes against it.
Right.
And that way it's going to bring me just into constant thinking and worrying about something or whatever. So if I do a solid no, it is a no because the door's closed.
Right.
I don't give people no more. I feel like once you're a people pleaser, you give too many open doors.
Yeah.
So I don't
that's a big one.
I don't have like I don't keep a bunch of open doors. I don't keep a bunch of yes girl or I don't keep it. I just give a solid no. And if it's something that I feel like I can entertain, I feel like it's different. It's better for me to go back and say, you know what? I thought about what you said, and maybe it's something I can't do it that way, but I can do it this way. That just works for me.
Yeah.
But if you put me in a position, I feel like just with my own mental health and just what I've been through, I just know that I don't entertain a lot of stuff because it goes against my healing process.
Right.
Or areas that I've healed. It's not that I don't love Jesus. It's not that I don't want people to do well. It is that it took a lot of work for me to get out of that place.
Yeah.
So I don't entertain stuff that brings me back to that place.
Right.
Whether people, and I think a lot of times people be like, well, if you're healed from it, that's fine. Maybe I'm not.
Right.
So it's a no. And
no, you are healed from it, and you've learned that saying yes to certain things is not a good idea.
Right.
And not
and
healthy.
You can also be still being healed from the thing or from some of that. But I just find out that, people will give you a million reasons why you should say yes, but you have to look at when you're coming out of being a people pleaser or areas you struggled with narcissists and all those things, that you have to be careful about what you, on a mental note, all those things that you open up.
Yeah.
I think when you go through a lot of stuff where emotionally abused and stuff like that.
Right.
I think you have to be very mindful with how many doors you have open with people. You have this, you got to do this, you got to do that. You'll drive yourself off of a cliff.
Yeah.
So I think that when you are coming out of being a people pleaser and stuff like that, be mindful.
Yeah.
Those are little things you just have to be mindful of, you know, when people come up and you can just say, I remember one time I was telling them, listen, I'm taking a sabbatical. It's just a solid no. And one time someone said to me, oh, do you think you can? I said, no, that's a forever no. I would just say, I would just tell people, no, I'm just.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good
I'm
way
on a sabbatical
you put them in categories.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because mentally I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And the reality of it was, I'd rather just say no and just close that door than to have it, and then now it's all in your mind and all of that, and you're going over it. Well, I should have, maybe I didn't no.
Right.
if the Lord really wants me to do it,
Right.
He
He'll
would
find
really,
a way to
He
to
will
get you
burden
there.
my heart.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I just find that.
And what, that's the other thing, like everybody else's problem isn't ours,
Right.
Now if we're asked to help or we see somebody in need, that's
Mhm.
different. You want to go to them. So we don't want to go to the opposite
Mhm.
end of the spectrum and say, because when my daughter was little, when Janelle was little, I got into this bad habit where she would ask me something and it was always no. 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 No,
Because
you can't
already,
do that.
because you
No,
already.
no.
Wow. You found it that you were already exhausted from telling everyone else yes.
Maybe that so one day she might have said, "Why do you always say no?" And I thought about it and I was like, "Yeah, why do I always say no?
You know she said that.
Why do I always say, like, it's like the first thing out of my mouth? No. No." So I stopped doing that. And then I would think about it, what she would say, and then I would either say yes or no.
Mhm.
Yes, you could do that or whatever. So yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, but it caused you not to show up in areas that you need to, like
Yeah.
with your children, because
Yeah.
you are depleted.
Yes. And I could never say yes to her.
Right,
Yeah.
because you were saying yes to all the wrong people.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it
Well,
depletes you.
Not that I never said yes to her.
No, I'm saying,
Yeah.
but just areas where you would have liked to just be more present.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. That's so
Emotionally
true.
and just in areas where you
Yep.
can be able to focus on it, but because you're already now burnt out from doing everything
That's
and
right.
pleasing everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's true. And that's one of the things I have down here, I think, somewhere. Makes us neglect ourselves, our family, and our responsibilities.
Mhm.
Not makes us. We choose that,
Right.
but we don't realize we're choosing that.
Mhm.
I'll just go down this. It leaves us unprotected,
Yes.
makes it hard to say no, keeps us too busy, can cause us to burn out, like you're
Mhm.
just saying, can create an expectation of us.
Right.
So people expect us to say
Mhm.
yes all the time and do what they want.
Yes. And it makes you give a false perception.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the worst things is when you're doing something that you don't really even want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it has to be like on my list of sad. That's like one of the saddest things, because I just, in my mind, I imagine it's literally you're being forced.
Yeah.
But because your voice isn't strong enough to say the no,
Mm-hmm.
or to say, you know what, I really can't do that.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a spirit forcing you. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And once God showed it to me that way,
Mm-hmm.
that I just left it alone totally. Because
He gives you the strength and the power.
Right, it gives it to you, but sometimes when you're a people pleaser, I would never be able to say that.
Oh, yeah, I did that too.
Oh, no, I can't say that.
Oh, I've said that
once I
so
got
many
a
times.
visual of it,
Mm-hmm.
it is something else, a different driving force.
Yeah.
And it's like you're forced to do this.
And you don't have to be nasty or mean about it.
No, absolutely not.
So,
right.
that's another thing.
Well, and people are going to say, because you're not pleasing them.
Right. They're going to
and you're
turn
not
it around.
doing, because people already comes to you with their own yes. Mm-hmm. Especially when you're dealing with narcissists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They already come with the answer.
Yeah.
So you're saying yes, they already said yes for you.
Right.
So the when you say to them, "Oh no, I can't do that,"
it throws them off.
It throws them off.
Oh yeah.
So when you're telling someone, just think about it like it's literally I'm being forced against my will.
Mm-hmm.
And just get that voice. I just feel like, just get it and just say, you know what?
It takes practice, and it does take courage.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to say, well, I can't see myself, just say, listen, this is a no thank you for me.
Yeah.
And people be like, well, you know what, I don't even have an explanation.
Mhm.
It's just a no thank you.
And you don't have to have. That's
And
another
you don't
thing.
owe no one.
You don't owe anybody an
Mhm.
explanation.
It's just a no thank you.
You know what? What you just said, something reminded me of, when you go into the supermarket and you're in the checkout line and they ask you if you want to give $1 or $5 to
Mhm.
cancer or children,
Mhm.
or animals, whatever. I don't think I ever used to say no because I was too embarrassed to say no. I thought that was like, oh my gosh, of course I have to, because how can I say no to Children's Hospital,
Right.
or something like that, or helping people with cancer. But one thing I realized was these people don't even care if you do it or not. They're just told they have to ask.
Right.
So that was one thing that I learned and I realized. But the other thing was, I thought, why do I feel like I have to say yes?
Right.
Like, they're not manipulating me, but
No.
in a way they are, because they know.
They ask a question, but because of how it is that spirit is.
Well, it's the setup that they have.
Right.
You're in the checkout line. You're paying for everything. That's the time to ask.
Mhm.
So they know that's the time to ask.
Mhm.
That's when you have your wallet out, and here you are, you're like trying to get everything in the bags and get everything done, and then you want to give money to this or to that.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, I guess, and they count on that.
Well, they use
They
it. I
count
mean,
on that.
it is a part of their strategy
Mhm.
that they use.
Mhm.
But I think that it's you.
Oh, absolutely.
It is what's in you that guilt, that, oh, if I don't,
Yep. I'm a terrible person.
like, why wouldn't I? I remember, well, I didn't. I never felt guilty about it. I would be like,
I
what is
used
it
to.
about? And they'll say it's for breast cancer.
Mhm.
It's, do you want to round it up to the nearest?
Right.
And I said, absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't give to any cancer, breast cancer research,
Yeah,
anything,
I mean, they
any of
say
that
it,
stuff anymore.
and
It's not what you think it is.
back then people used to say, you don't want to even give 50, and I said, no, tell them to give it to me. I used to be like, this store is rich.
Yeah.
They can just round off their tax and give it to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I used to tell them,
Good.
from there, no.
Well,
no,
I
not.
never would have had the courage to say that, to
To
say something
those,
like that to them.
Yeah, but I just
I do
them.
now. I would now.
Yeah.
Like, I've told people, I don't do it anymore, but I've told people I don't even.
Right.
I've had breast cancer. I will not support Susan B. Komen. I will not support the pink ribbon. I will not support any of that, because all that money does not go to people who need it. It goes to the researchers and all the scientists and all that, and all this administrative stuff. It's just like you're giving money to a business, but it's a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all. They still give money. They go on vacations. They give bonuses because they have all this extra money. And when you have like a 501c3 type of organization, you can't have a surplus at the end. So you have to give it away. You have to give it to your employees or do something with it, because you have to balance. You have to zero it out.
Zero it out.
So, these nonprofits are not, hurting for money. Just because it's a nonprofit doesn't mean they don't make a lot of money. So that's one thing. But I never give to that because I've asked. So where is this money going to?
Right. What is
Most of them don't even know where it's going. And number two, well, it's going to cancer research. Okay, so that means it's going to scientists and it's going to researchers.
Mm-hmm.
And that means they're going to probably test on animals, and it's going to go to universities and give funding for experiments and all this stuff, which I don't agree with. So, and I think I look at all these scientists and medical scientists, researchers. They make a ton of money. They're making a ton of money. That's where the money's going. They're never going to find a cure for cancer. There's already a cure for cancer, really, but they're never going to find a cure that way, because if they did, they'd all be out of a job. It's not going to happen. So anyway, but getting off that subject because that's like a rabbit hole. There's so much in there. But anyway, so being a people pleaser can make us feel like we don't know who we are because we're so busy for everyone else.
Right.
And that's part of what we said before too. And it puts us in a position of agreeing to things we shouldn't agree to in the first place. And it also, being a people, I probably didn't finish, makes us wonder why. I probably just didn't finish typing that out, so I'm not sure. But okay, so then I went on a website and I looked up people pleasing, and here's what it says it's from an article. People pleasers may have traits that include. Go ahead.
Low self-worth.
I think. Oh yeah, this page.
It accommodates everyone else's needs.
Yeah. So just read them because I wrote all of those other ones down before I saw this. Undermines.
It undermines her own needs, goes with the flow, that dedicated by others,
or dictated
by others.
Yeah.
It's too agreeable in general, does not assert themselves, rarely says no, feels valuable when complaining with complying with others.
Yeah. Values praise from others.
Yeah.
Says sorry when no apology is required. I used to do that.
I do that
all the time. I don't do that anymore.
Well,
Takes the blame when not at fault. Makes excuses for the faults of others.
True.
I've done that
a million times.
Has little self-awareness. Now that's not something that is true for me. I've always been aware. I've always examined myself. I've always, felt bad about if I did something wrong. I would always take responsibility. So yeah, and there's fear of rejection or failure too.
Right.
That was always a big thing with me. And if I do fail or I am rejected, then what? Then what happens to you? You're, not that I was ever really a depressing type person, but it bothers you. It will really bother you, because you take things, it's personal.
Yeah.
And it says these things may be rooted early relationships. So from childhood, these are things that are put on you that are taught. So it's just normal to us. We don't realize it. And hopefully, well, for me, I'm much older than Cassetta. So, it took me a longer time, but hopefully for people watching this, or there might be other people who are seeking out, help, that they're younger and they won't have to because the older you are, the more stuff gets piled in and you have more layers to unravel. There's more stuff in there that you have to work out. Baggage, yeah. So the earlier you can get this, and like I said before last week, if you know anyone, if you can help them in some way, at least to let them know they're not alone and they're not crazy, So it says, perhaps a people pleaser had a parent whose love was conditional, which my mom definitely was conditional love. This child may have had to earn her parents' love and affection, or her parent was unavailable emotionally, or the parent's availability was inconsistent. And that's all of that is my situation. Do people pleasers look for approval and validation from others? Yeah, I think we all have some of that in us.
Yeah.
We all want people
you want to do
validate
your best.
us. Yeah.
I mean, depends. It
But
goes
but some people like look for it
right.
and like they can't live without it. Like that, I was never. I don't think I was really that way. You know.
About validation.
Yeah, like if somebody didn't like me, they didn't like me, or if somebody, um, you know, I mean, so I. It's funny because I have some of the characteristics, but then on the other hand, I was tough, and there were certain things I didn't allow to penetrate me.
Mm.
And I do believe that that was God's protection on me. So some things, yes, slipped in, but there's a lot of things that like um, I just wouldn't allow in my life, even as a young person. I didn't. Um, I just like I liked singing and dancing, and I liked being in the plays and acting and all. But I did it because I liked it. Like I enjoyed that. I loved it.
Mm.
I didn't do it because I wanted everybody to say how great I was. I was embarrassed. Like it
to
was.
Get the praise.
Yeah, I felt like I really wasn't doing it for that.
Right.
I just loved doing it. So um, I was never comfortable with people saying anything, like making a fuss.
Mm-hmm.
I was not comfortable with that. And is that part of being a people pleaser? Maybe, because I don't want the attention on me. Like
right.
I didn't want the attention on me.
But somebody could have said
and I enjoyed it.
Good job, Lisa. You did great, and you felt good.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it does, but it
sometimes
also made me feel uncomfortable because I.
Okay.
I mean, because I don't know why. I don't know if it was because I felt like I didn't deserve it,
or you didn't get it a lot at home.
Yeah.
So it becomes. I find that it becomes uncomfortable because that's not something you're used to hearing.
Yeah, it could be.
Right.
I'm not.
It's not
really
a light
sure.
that naturally people shine at home on you. So
yeah,
it's like don't start it.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, so let's see. The person wants assurance that he matters to the people around him, and that's true. I think that's true, but I mean, I can't say that I was conscious of it. Like I wasn't conscious that I want to matter to everybody. Like I never really thought that way.
I felt like I didn't matter. So I think
that right. I felt like I didn't matter.
I felt like I didn't matter. So I feel like well, it wasn't like I felt like I well, you know when you matter, when when you come in a room and it wasn't until I got older.
Wow.
God blessed me with a few people that my presence mattered, or I've been seeing people sometimes like 10 years, family members, and they're like, oh, hey, what's up? There's
like they saw you yesterday.
So there's no, you're an empty event.
Yeah.
So you just, so I find out that I never really cared if, but I think I learned in life, like, I wasn't valuable.
Yeah.
So I think that when I found people that I was valuable to, that treated me like I was valuable, was really important, even when the relationship didn't really make sense to carry on.
Yeah.
I wanted to hold on to them because they found some form of value in me. So why would you want to let that go?
True.
So I end up holding on to, people that the season that was done. I realized that they really didn't see me well.
Yeah.
And they didn't really, their value came with conditions.
I call that looking for love in all the wrong places.
Wrong places.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was love. I think it was just, even with friendships.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And anything, you were looking for people that would care about you.
No, not necessarily that, but like
I think I
simple
was.
things. I mean, like in some areas, with that, but I'm talking like with the simple things, like just little things, like, hey, you want to go get coffee? Just like little valuable things. Like
Right.
it's hard to really find people that are like.
Yeah.
So when you do, you tend to want to hold on to them.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I found out that in myself, not really like, I just wanted to hold on to because I saw that, it's important for me when somebody get out of their day and just call and say, hey, what's up? Or,
Yeah.
Outside of a need.
Right. Yeah.
So when I'm saying,
that's a good point.
Yeah, outside of a need.
That's a good
So
point.
I'm talking a different value. I'm talking like the one that really matters.
Mhm.
So I find it like, but when you really start realizing it's all a setup for a greater need.
Yep.
That they have down the road.
Yeah.
You're like, oopsie.
Yeah.
I fell into the pit.
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it says he doesn't look for validation from within, he seeks it from everywhere else. And he wants to be recognized and accepted by everyone. For the most part, if he feels well liked, he can relax and like himself as well. So people will think that they're valuable if other people value them. But that's not true.
Mm-mm.
You're valuable because you're created in God's image.
Right.
And by God.
Mm-hmm.
So that alone has nothing to do with how anybody else thinks or feels about you. And so, yeah. So there's another part here that I wanted to mention, and that is the masochistic personality. I guess I'm saying that right. And the only reason why I looked into this is because there was a link in the people-pleasing article that I read. And it's connected to the word masochist, which sounds like really evil and horrible, but it's really, from what they explain, it's not like that. It's basically the main point that I got from it is a self-defeating behavior. So constant need to please others, which is part of the people-pleasing thing,
mm-hmm.
and the reflexive denial of positive regard. That's where I think I have had.
I got to read up more about that.
Yeah, you can take this home. I definitely have that, and I think the reflexive denial of positive regard. I don't know if this is what they mean, but it reminds me of when people would say, like if I performed or something, and people would say that I sang well or did this well or whatever. My reflexive denial. No, it wasn't. No, that wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not good. Like I always felt like I was good enough, and I have to say, I think it stems from probably my dad. When I was a teenager, I was probably about 16. My dad said to me, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but he said, because I wanted to be a singer, and he said, singers are a dime a dozen, and that you need to take shorthand and typing so you can get a secretarial job. And even though I had really good grades, and I was like, did well in school, it never occurred to him, and I didn't really want to go to college anyway, but it never even occurred to him, hey, she's college material. She ought to go to college. Let's talk about this, But that was he never did. And my dad had a master's degree, so it's not like he was uneducated. Could it be because he had
so many of you guys?
But I was the last one.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was the very last, right? So his advice to me was make sure you take typing and shorthand so you can get a secretarial job. And he said, there's always going to be somebody that sings better than you. So that
you can see where that stems from.
Yeah. So Lisa, you're not really that good.
Right.
You're not good enough. So don't even try. Like, what's the point? But I kept going, and I kept doing it. I kept improving.
And look at you now.
I loved it.
Yes.
And but And of course, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be on TV and I wanted to be a famous singer, and all that stuff. Um, I'm thankful that that never happened, because that is just, I wouldn't recommend that kind of life to anybody. What they do to these young girls is awful. So anyway, so um, so it also says that personality is a combination of inheritance, like our genetics, and early life experience. Nurturance influences us. So the way that we were nurtured, the way that our parents took care of us. It also talks about, I think this is the one, okay, here it is. It says, surely you've encountered children attending to adult responsibilities. I've met kids who tend to bill paying and groceries because their mother was too anxious to leave the house and her boyfriend believed these tasks were below him. Others were saddled with getting siblings off the bus, fixing dinner, and getting siblings to bed because parents were disabled, working, abusing substances, or absentee. So that just made me, the groceries part, and my husband still can't believe it. When I was like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, we used to live right behind it used to be the Bazaar, it's now Home Depot, in the Bishop Hill Apartments. And I would go to the Acme, there was an Acme there, and I would go food shopping. And then I'd call my mom and or my sister, and they'd come and pick me up with all the bags. And I didn't know that was just normal. And I was doing wash when I was little. I was cleaning when I was little. So by the time I was 10, I was cleaning the whole house. I had to clean, including my mom's room. I had to clean everything. So that was my Saturday. So sometimes my friends would come over and I couldn't go because I wasn't finished cleaning yet, and, but, so that really hit home with me. So I didn't have little siblings to take care of, get off the bus, or, have to fix dinner for, but I mean, sometimes I had to just take care of myself and eat, eat dinner. My mom didn't, wasn't always able to cook. She worked, so sometimes I would have to start dinner and, things like that. So, and then it says, imagine being a child of an anxious temperament and having such forced responsibilities. If you don't submit, you're told you're no good and selfish or harshly punished. And that was true, too. Being anxious, you're likely to cave to the demands. You've been groomed. Your lot is taking care of others' needs before yours, if at all. Clearly, your needs aren't important. And that's why we become people pleasers, because we're taught at an early age that our needs don't matter, we don't matter, and we're here to serve everybody else. And while God tells us we should serve others, but we have to also look to our, he says, not only should you look to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. So we're not only to look at the interest of others, we have to look after ourselves so that we're healthy enough to help look after others, But when you're put in a position like that at a young age and you're taught you don't matter and your needs don't matter, it's hard. You don't even know the difference. That's just how you're raised. So it says identity and self-worth become based on caretaking, even as a child. It's the only thing you're rewarded for. Sadly, personalities are solidifying between ages 7 and 13. Now, mine started around 6. I remember that because that's when my parents separated. Their divorce was final, and, we moved out. So that is very true. And it's, So the masochistic thing, the main thing that I got out of it was a self-defeating characteristic that is taught. It's taught.
Thought behavior.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you all these too, so you can have these. So here.
Mm-hmm. Thank
you. You can take them.
Mm-hmm.
And I will put these on the Lisa Small Naturals in the group page. So if you decide you want to join the group, just go to my Lisa Small Naturals, and you'll see there's a group, and you just have to answer some questions, and then you can be part of that and get all this information. So I guess we're going to end there.
Yes.
And next week, I can't do Thursday, so we'll have to figure something out.
Another day.
So we'll figure out another day. Yeah, if anybody is interested in being part of something, like we're still going to do the pre-recorded because I think it's better to have the conversations,
mm-hmm.
and we can say whatever we want to say. And I don't have, if you're okay with that, I'm okay with that, and I publish it, it's okay. But I don't want to have other people on there and then have them feel like, oh, is she going to, I would never publish it, like
right.
make it public.
Right.
But if anybody wants to get together, like on this freeconferencecall.com, and you want to do, something like that, we could always pick another time to do something like that, or we can take a half an hour before on a Thursday and do that, and then just shorten the other time, a little bit. So if anybody is, in need of some support in that sense, that, that's fine. Just let me know. So you would, just contact me somehow, either on YouTube or my Facebook, Lisa Small Naturals Facebook page. And we can set something up like that. So thank you for watching.
Yeah.
And hopefully this was helpful. I don't know, if you have any comments you want to put down in the YouTube channel or on my Facebook page, feel free to do that. And I pray that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week, that, God will share with you some things that you need to know, and that you'll accept them, and that if there are narcissists or there are people in your life that are not treating you well and that continue to hurt you, just pray and ask God for his wisdom and guidance. Know that he's there for you. He sent his son to die for us so that we could be in relationship with him, because in him there is no sin.
Okay.
And with us, we're human beings, and the only way that God can see us sinless is if Christ is in us. That's the mystery that is, in Scripture, that we can understand now. It was talked about in the Old Testament, but now we know, because we're on the other side of that, with Jesus coming and dying, that he lives in his children to guide us into all truth. And he can never steer us. The Holy Spirit will never steer us in the wrong direction.
At all.
Can't. It's just not possible.
Mm-hmm.
So our work in our faith and in our working out our salvation is really simple. It's not doing. It's not, being involved at church. It's not going to church. It's not being nice to people or giving or tithing or anything like that. That's just a result of our relationship with the Lord. That's just the outcome. But what our work is, that I've learned, is that we have to do what the Apostle Paul did, and that was he said, I beat my body to make it my slave. Mm-hmm. And I believe what he meant by that.
No. It's a cat.
Yeah, the cat again. I believe what he meant by that was that he is is in such control of his own body that his flesh is no longer ruling him, is not in control. He's in control. And by being in control, he can then yield to the Holy Spirit and let Christ in him do his will and whatever is God's will. And that's what our work is. That's not really talked about in churches. It's really, it's not really something that a lot of people understand, but I really pray and hope that they will. It's really simple. It's not easy because our flesh is at war with spirit, and the flesh wants to be the one to rule us. But that's where we get ourselves in trouble, when we allow it to. And that's why God tells us there's fruit of the Spirit. There's 9 fruit of the Spirit. I'm not going to go through every one because I probably won't remember every single one. But the one that's important in this is self-control.
Yes.
And that was something that I never had growing up because there was no example for me for self-control. And I just learned what I saw. Children see what they learn. They learn what they see. I mean,
it's over.
She scared me.
It's over.
Oh my God. So anyway,
I can't come back from that.
All right, we're gonna let Cassetta calm down, and thanks again for watching. And we'll be praying for anyone who is in need. The Lord knows who you are. So God bless, and we will see you hopefully next week.
Dear God. Brenna, not Brenna. Belle, your parents got to get you.